Civilization. Right. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome each and every one of our audience to the Finance Committee meeting of the Georgetown Divide Public Utility District on this fine Tuesday afternoon, April 24th, 2025. I'm going to call the meeting to order. And if you would stand with me, and we will begin with a pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. That brings us to the adoption of today's agenda. Have our quorum of committee members had an opportunity to look over it, and anything to add, subtract, comment on? If not,
Do you want to do a roll call there just to?
Let's do a roll call.
Steve Miller,
Yes.
Martha Hitlick,
Yes.
William Gordon,
Present.
Amy Fisher,
Present.
and Liaison Saunders.
Present.
All right, now we will move on to adoption of agenda. Anybody have a motion?
I make a motion, we adopt the agenda.
And a second?
I'll second this.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Our agenda for today is adopted. That brings us to public forum. So seeing no one in the audience and one person online, Cherie, you represent every ratepayer today. So if you have anything you'd like to share or ask or anything like that, got anything on your mind for public comment, or are you here to listen to the items? Seeing nothing from Cherie right now. No hands up. We'll go ahead and move on from public forum to approval of minutes. I believe with Elizabeth out for a few days, we do not have minutes for our March meeting. So that normally then we will double up on minutes next time we're here for our next meeting. So we do not have minutes to approve from the last meeting. Try to catch up on those, which now brings us to our informational items. We're moving right on to item number 5. And our general manager, Nick, would you want to take it away and give us a briefing on where we're at in our financial year?
So, if there's any questions about any of the vendor reports or any of the stuff that you normally get, we would be happy to take them. I think we're right on track for kind of budget to actuals as we kind of come into the end of our fiscal year. Nothing really seems out of place. Obviously, we have the normal 5,600 stuff that we pay in the beginning of the year, so that may look a little out of place at this point, but we're still well on track. I do want to make a note. At the last board meeting, there was a request from board members to include the credit card statement because that does include different transactions, and for transparency's sake, we did include. There's 3 credit cards with the agency. There's myself has one, Jessica has one, and Adam has one. So you'll see the credit card statements forever now attached to the financial reports, so you can see what is being purchased with those credit cards. So if there's any questions about any of that from either you or the public, I'd be happy to take those as well. There was not many updates to the grant report.
The last one.
Okay,
Oh,
so there was no changes from the last one. We'll make sure we get it updated for the board meeting, but we don't have any changes to any of the grants. So happy to take any questions at this time.
Can you explain to me the transfer in and transfer outs?
You'll have to take me to a page.
There's a bunch of those.
so we're in the process of correcting the GL. The board has been extensively going over the state revolving fund 120, which incorporated the Walton loan and the AMR loan. So now the AMR loan has its own fund, 122, and those would be transfer outs. The other part is any CIP project, and we are developing an SOP for this as we speak. Up until last fiscal year, at the very end of the year, we would go through the CIP projects, and anything that was not attached to the asset that was created, whether it be infrastructure or tangible asset, professional services, engineering, materials and supplies that did not go into the asset were transferred back out of CIP into those individual funds. With the water fund, into the different departments. That asset was attached to.
So on the second page here, where I'm looking at, I'm looking at the second page of the, manager's report. You got 17 million transferred in, that was. You see where it says halfway down the page. That transfer in was coming out of CIP or coming out of grants, and then it goes in, and then you had 500,000 transferred out. And then throughout this, it's like allocated, it looks to me like different.
Those are all asset related.
Yeah.
So the actual assets were living in the CIP fund 111, when at the end of the year, when those projects are complete, those assets need to belong to their different departments.
Okay, I think I understand.
So once the project is complete, all of those assets get allocated to raw water, distribution, treatment plant, and that hadn't been done since we had Tyler.
Okay,
So they were all sitting, the asset module, every asset belonged to CIP and not to the actual department it was supposed to belong to. So it was like it belonged to the entire district instead of when we redid the treatment plant. It should just be in treatment, that asset. So as a whole, everything is the same, but now we've allocated all of those closed CIP projects back to the departments that they belong to in asset value.
yeah, I think I understand. I just noticed that.
It's gonna, yeah, it's
A
gonna,
whole bunch of, it looks like reconciliation of some type. I was just trying to wonder
it's a
what.
major
Okay,
reconciliation.
got it. The other question I had. Under 5,200, you have, part-time temp wages. And I was wondering for the next budget. Do we need to bump that? Do we need to consider, the other thing was, some of these have overtime standby and health insurance in there. Do we need to bump that in the new budget?
Those are all given an increase every year.
Got it.
The part-time wages, that's hit or miss. We don't want to have to temporarily have stand-in people for our staff that are coming back. So we had a lot of babies born last year,
Got it.
and that's why it was higher. We had 3 people that had babies, they were out on leave, and we needed an extra body, so we had a temporary person come in.
I think you told me that.
I think we had multiple people at one time where we had multiple temps. Yeah, so it's not, yeah, like she said, it's not something we really wanna assume or try to budget for. I think it's something that we can address as needed,
Okay,
because if we don't wanna pad the budget with a bunch of extra things if we don't have to.
well, that just raised the question of, do we hire a part-time or do we need to do some more? And that's good explanation.
So there is some organizational changes that we're proposing at the next board meeting, to remove an employee from the org chart and to add 2 employees to the org chart. We have a person retiring at the top, and so instead of replacing somebody at the top, we're filtering people back through, and we're kind of doing instead of raising one person up, we're kind of raising everybody up a little bit.
That's it. I think the only other questions I had were, just identities of some of the people. Hang on, yeah. I wondered about the credit card invoices, because it's like. Didn't care to see people's credit card invoices, but now I understand.
I redacted everything that,
They're not that exciting.
they're really not.
And I will make note that there is a credit coming back to my credit card, $425, $452.
We got a couple lawyer groups here, Best and Krieger, and we got Lance, Soul and Lundberg, I
So
assume.
Lance Stoll and Lumberg, that's our auditor, not the CPA.
Okay,
And then Best and Krieger's our attorneys.
okay, and does that relate to the lawsuit, or are we done with that? No. okay.
No, we only pay them when we receive a settlement.
Okay. Are they on retainers, or is this just, bill as go?
Bill is good.
Okay, good. Those in,
And you'll note that in the budget, when you kind of look at budget to actuals for when we were further on. The attorney fees are quite a bit higher than we have allocated. There's a couple of reasons for that. We did have a lot of costs that came out of the cost of service analysis. And then we've had some other kind of one-off legal fees that have kind of encompassed some of those costs. So that's why it's such a low budget still, but it's still over budget right now. And I don't really want to increase it. Our contract is for the 80,000 a year, but right now I think we've spent 142 or 152 or something like that. So I don't really want to increase that number because I'm hoping that we have a better year where we don't have the extra charges.
Okay.
That's it for me.
Yeah, there's. I'm on page 10 and looking at, could you explain what the Stewart Mine Fund, the Garden Valley Fund, the Kelsey North Fund are?
So you want those are, go ahead.
There are water assessment districts. So we
Okay.
received a bond
Okay,
for expanding the district into those areas, those
Okay.
neighborhoods. And they pay into property taxes. So we pay back our bond, but then we also get funds back through property tax revenue.
okay, so they're discrete areas that have had improvements
They're
within
literally
those
Stewart-
areas and
Stewart
they're
Mine,
paying for
yeah.
those discrete benefits to their neighborhoods.
100%.
Very good.
And there's soon to be, one of them, I think it's Kelsey North, is almost paid off.
Hooray.
And then we'll just get in, property tax revenue and won't have to pay anything on those.
All right. Anything else? Anything from the audience? Seeing no hands, we'll move on to our next item, our action item, which is number 6, review and consideration of the preliminary fiscal year 2025-26 operating budget and capital improvement plan.
Bear with me, I'm gonna.
Take it
Oh,
away.
we did have a question from Sheree, if you want to take that.
Oh. Sheree, I see your hand there. Was this on the last item or the next item? Go ahead, unmute and,
There, I'm sorry, it was the last one. The way Zoom is now, you got to try to find where the hand is.
oh, okay,
It's not real obvious. So my
Okay.
question is on the credit card statements. Is that one US bank account that all three of you have separate card numbers?
Yes. So it's not really it's called a CalCard system. So it's basically just one account, but there's 3 different cards that come out of the same account.
Okay. Because it's kind of weird. What's this like on Adam's statement? There's a separate statement. It's got exclamation mark 11 bank. And then on Jessica's, it's exclamation mark D bank.
I think it's just a credit. Hang on, I guess. Yeah.
And then the main one has US Bank on it. It's just kind of weird that. But I have a question on one item, and it's for $329 to something that starts with a U. Wait a minute, let me find it.
On which card?
Adams.
Oh, X. I think it's Jessica's $329.99. X Bowl Lotto or something.
Equipment.
That's Adams.
Yeah, that's Adam's credit card. If you look at the first sheet,
Oh,
it
okay.
breaks it all down.
Right, but I'm just asking what that item was for. And there's one that's in the UK that has UK after it.
you know offhand what Expolato UK is? Are they a equipment supplier or?
Well, it's for 5100, which is source of supply, so I can figure that out, but off the top of my head.
You don't know. Okay, well, I can
Maybe
ask at the,
If I can, I think I remember having a conversation with Adam that they need, one of the trucks in 5100 needed a new winch, and so I would guess that might be a winch. But I would like
okay.
to
Is it-
verify that.
yeah.
It's materials and supplies. So.
Okay, so yeah, Adam's. on the
right, and then
audience
it just
today
has
with-
UK, which is England, so. Well, I'll ask it at the board meeting then.
Okay,
Okay, that's my questions. Thank you.
all right, with that, we'll close item 5, move on to number 6, action items. Preliminary budget for next fiscal year. Take it away.
Okay, if you just give me a moment to again share my screen here. Oh, hold up.
Talk about the fine print.
Okay. So we should be able to go, so there's not a lot of changes from the last time we went over this. What I'd like to do is maybe kind of just go over the changes, and if there's anything else that stuck out to you, we can talk about those as well. So you'll notice in red, anything that's in red is what has been changed since the last time you've seen this. So we have a new formula for the DSOD dam payments. So that is captured underneath the dam permit fees. And I believe, sorry, I'm not trying to pop around for those on the internet. But you'll notice in here that we have government regulation and fees. Those are all underneath the under here. So we have a different, because this is not the Walton Dam, the Edson Dam. This is a new formula they're putting out for us. So was there anything on 5100 that you guys noticed or would like to discuss?
Do you expect that dam fee calculation to change dramatically, or is it just an
We
increment?
actually just paid it and
We
it's
just
less
paid it.
than that,
Okay,
so we'll be updating it.
It was
okay,
81,000, wasn't it?
No, it's 76.
76.
Good.
We just paid it today.
Yeah. 71 and something.
So we still don't know what the water rights are gonna be. 24 is a comfortable amount. But now we do know that they have a set formula. And it doesn't, it changes every year. The calculation percentages change, but the formula itself is the same. It's like the feet of the dam, the capacity of the water, and they charge you accordingly.
Mhm.
I've looked at the formula, I still don't understand all of it. But it is less than what we are going to budget for, and we just paid it, so for 25-26 and 76,000. Excuse me. Oh, that's good news.
Yeah.
So you'll see that at the next joint budget meeting, that's changed.
what does the 5,000 for CAL FIRE Growlersburg pay for? Is
So
that
when they
fuel
come
for it?
out, it's the Growlersburg crew
Mhm.
that does the
Yeah.
handwork. So they do work on the dam.
Okay,
They do work in our diversion area. They do a lot of just clearing and burning, and then they also do a lot of burning around Walton. So you'll see it in a bunch of different departments. As it kind of goes down the line, we build different departments.
so is it fuel load reduction,
Yes.
clearing of channels?
Not really a lot of channels, more
Okay.
fuel load.
Okay.
Using, I have some pictures of them. Basically, they took all the material off the backside of the dam, so they're actually walking on the riprap down the dam.
Mm-hmm,
And they're removing fuel and taking it up, and then they'll go through like at Walton, and they'll cut all the slash and the low hanging branches, and they'll burn them. It's the kind of the long time consuming work of burning, where we'd rather have them sit there and watch a fire than having our guys sit there and watch a fire all day.
yeah, I was familiar with the crew, the Washington Ridge and Growlersburg in my line of work, and what you get for that 5,000, I mean, they're inmates, and they are very subsidized, and they do a tremendous amount of work
Yeah.
for the dollar you pay them, so if you can get them, that's money well spent.
I think we pay, is it $250 a day?
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think a lot of
For
it's
10
in-kind.
guys, something
Yeah.
like that?
yeah, tremendous value, I mean, it really is paying their debt to society, and,
Yeah.
There's usually 10 to 15 of them.
yeah,
I think it's 10 guys on the crew that we get, and then you pay for one sergeant or one officer. But that's all part of the 250. So you basically pay for this one, correctional officer
Yeah.
and then 10 guys.
okay.
Moving on, I do not see any other hands. Moving on to 5,200. There's no changes that we proposed for 5,200 from the last time we met. But I'll just pause if there's anybody who has any questions about anything. And I know that was the one with the overtime, so I'll just kind of reiterate that there was a lot of overtime and part-time work done here. Or not overtime, but part-time and temporary work done here because of family medical leaves.
Right.
Going into 5,300, this is water treatment. So we did add a portable restroom up there. And that is actually at the lake, not at the treatment plant. So that is for folks who are fishing or recreating. We added a porta potty because the bathrooms that are there need quite a bit of rehabilitation. And they're not really safe for being operated by people. So we did add that charge in here for a porta potty. There's also water quality sensors that we have under capital expenses. These are anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 to $2,500. And basically what they are is kind of inline sensors that as the water runs through the pipe, they take readings, consistent readings. So these aren't under capital improvement plan because they're under $5,000, but because of the age of them, we're coming into about the 5, 6, 7 year mark for some of these water quality sensors. We have to start replacing them as they go out.
Nick, who's
Oh.
responsible for maintaining those restrooms that are there that are in disrepair?
They are our responsibility, and so we are going to put forward a plan to
Get
fix
them,
those.
okay,
They're also,
There's a
Not-
restroom inside the treatment plant
yeah,
that works fine, but it's not accessible to the public.
okay.
the unfortunate part is it's not the most accessible area to where the recreating area is. You have to kind of walk away from the recreation area about 100 to 200 yards, so it may be kind of a reconfiguration of where the building actually has to go. Instead of rehabilitating what's there, we may plan to move it
Okay,
more closer.
okay.
Vault or septic?
You know, I'd have to get back to you on that. I'm guessing vault. Because I don't know, with the lake right there, I don't know if we put a leach field in.
Okay.
So, there wasn't anything else for 5,300 that I can see. 5,400. I don't think we have any updates for 5,400, am I correct? Nothing for 5,400. I will pause just as any questions for 5,400. 5,600 did have some changes. So. I'm just gonna kind of park this right here. If we want to move, we can move it. So there's a couple of changes and one of, I'm gonna kind of come back to, it's on the sheet as the first red one, but. We're gonna come back to that. There's, the copier overhead is going up. We got the new contract for that. We are adding the AED service because there's an AED right inside here that we have to have serviced and they check it every once in a while. So that went up a little bit. So when we did the cost of service analysis, there was originally the idea that we would continue to work with Sanjay and his company as we look at rate increases throughout the years. So we were originally gonna contract with him. We do have an option to utilize the software that he uses and maybe purchase or maybe pay for less of his time. Where we could actually input the same inputs that he inputted into the rate study. And it will kind of give out some of the same information that he was able to give us. And maybe the interpretation is a lot less from him. So we can have this software. The initial cost was, I think, $2,500. I don't remember.
For the rest of the year prorated, it's about 7,200 for the entire year.
So we had originally budgeted about $10,000 to utilize Sanjay and his services, but we can basically use the software to get a similar thing and have him kind of give it a once over to say that either it's good or bad, or we don't have to use him at all. So the board can decide which way they would like to go, but this is something that we are proposing to the board and to the finance committee just to kind of continue those looks at making sure that we're not raising the rates higher than they need to be, but still making sure that we're maintaining all the same numbers that we originally agreed to.
Yeah. Question. And the software one-time charge?
I think
It's annual.
Oh, that,
but it's for unlimited users, so the entire board finance committee could go in and play with the numbers. And you could add CIP projects, see what the rates would be, take the stuff out. It would be exactly what Sanjay did, where he could manipulate the numbers by, let's remove this and see what the rates need to be. Let's add this and see what the rates end up needing to be, or how do we reduce the rates, remove this, remove that. You would be able to have logins and play with it yourself, rather than sending the information to Sanjay, waiting for him to manipulate the numbers and send it back to us.
So who, is this gonna fall under you, Jessica, or you're gonna be the
Probably.
main person?
most likely.
Especially for implementation,
I mean, it's,
but
cause sometimes these things on the surface look pretty simple.
well, that's
But
the question. Do you wanna-
Listening to Sanjay's explanation at one of the rate hearings, it was quite complex and it might be worth his time versus you taking this on and,
That's up to you guys.
okay.
I would,
How do you
would,
feel- How do you feel about it?
I've already played around with it, and I think once all of the data's in there, it's what I'm already doing. It just gives me rates. I don't have that access right now. So managing the budget, managing the CIP projects and what that looks like, it would do all of that as well.
Okay.
I don't think it's smart to cut water resource economics out entirely.
Yes,
I still think having them verify and making sure that what we're doing is correct. Not only to have the third party involved, just kind of a neutral look. Because we can set the numbers and manipulate them however we think is best, and that's not always the best thing for the district, for the customer.
Mhm.
So I totally understand what you're saying.
yeah,
It's a nice tool to have, but I don't think it replaces everything that Sanjay has to offer.
okay. And, I mean, what's the savings we're looking at, you know? Is it significant? Or,
Maybe a couple $1,000s
um,
a year.
oh, a year?
Yeah.
Huh.
So
I don't know if that's worth, okay, let me think about that. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so what I would say is I would think about it and maybe when at the May meeting, come back and
Okay,
express your sentiment there, cause
okay,
I feel the same way you feel.
okay,
Well, I think, for my 2 cents, I think it makes sense, if you think it's a useful tool for you to have, rather than going to the consultant and asking him, time is money. And it seems to me, if you can manipulate, and it's a tool for you, I'm not saying cut him out, but I'm saying if it adds additional tools for you guys to use.
And
I think that makes sense.
I
And I
think it
don't want,
reduces how much time we have to spend with him.
correct, and we don't want to reinvent the wheel by going to somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, I think if it's worthwhile, why not? It's my personal.
One
But
thing,
you're gonna be using, I would never use it. And I don't know.
before bringing it to the board, can you have a analysis of this is what the software costs with using Sanjay Limited versus this is what it is with?
I will try to have an answer. I'll reach out to Sanjay and see.
Yeah, we have the Waterworth information.
It's about $7,200 for the Waterworth, and then we estimated $10,000 for Sanjay, so
Yes.
maybe it might be.
Both ways looks like it's about the same, what we have more ability to manipulate the data and see for ourselves.
We might be able to reduce Sanjay to say $5,000 for him just to double check our numbers, just to make sure we're not missing or anything. So that would, you know, it may cost a little more than the original $10,000, but we have a little bit more dials that we can turn in-house.
Right.
I did see a hand go up from Cherie. I'm not sure if she put it down or if she still had a question.
Don't see anything now. We can get back
Well-
to Sheree. She's got something. You got something,
Well-
Sheree? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, you're speaking about the Waterworth software.
Correct.
What software are you speaking about? Right? Okay, just my question.
Yeah, it's called Waterworth, and it's very similar to the software that was used to develop the cost of service analysis. And we could have access to it in-house here to do a similar analysis of all the numbers, and then it would help develop the rate charts.
And that costs, you said 10,000?
Like about 7,200 for the year for the Waterworth software. We originally estimated about $10,000 to have Sanjay come back in and do a reanalysis.
Okay, all right.
So moving forward,
I did want to
Okay.
ask about, where did it go? JCOM Inc., the watershed out.
Oh, I was gonna mention that. I'm sorry, I just skipped over that. I was like, so we had a film crew come out and give us a quote on doing some educational films for our customers on what we do, what we offer, and how the system works. So this would be kind of an all-encompassing look at what we do here at the district, and help with legislation in the future, help with grants in the future, but it would also help with our customers to understand their water system. So this is something that we're doing to do some additional outreach to our customers.
Okay, and this would be a proposal for next year's budget. You're not doing anything like it, next year's budget?
We're not doing anything this year. This will be for next year.
Okay. And you do think you'd see a return on investment with the ability to apply it to grant packages?
Yeah, so part of what they're gonna do is we're gonna video and show a kind of an in-depth look at the fire area. And utilize that for like brick grants and resiliency type grants. We have Prop 4 coming up. And I think we can kind of tell a lot of story by pictures, pictures are worth 1,000 words, a video is probably worth 1,000,000. And so that's our goal, is to kind of have these little kind of videos where we can show legislators or appropriators what we're actually facing. Because I don't want to bring them here, but I'd like them to see what we're dealing with.
Okay. Yeah, a little hesitant to have us spending a lot of money on self-promotion, so I appreciate you kind of explaining that it's outreach beyond our ratepayers, telling them, charging the ratepayers to tell them what they're paying for.
It's not a lot of self-promotion. We are going to include a portion of kind of where your water comes from, so they can see, the Stumpy Reservoir, and there's a lot of stuff that nobody sees. Obviously you all have asked for tours,
Right.
because not a lot of our infrastructure is visible from easily accessible areas. So we would include some of that so that people could see it. But then that also it ties into this original question of how do we tell the legislators, hey, we have to go all the way out here. And this is, I'll give you a perfect example. We have this new CARB regulation, the electric vehicle regulation. I can show a CARB representative where we have to drive and how rugged the terrain is, where the terrain is, and how far away from the office it is. So they can actually see that maybe EV cars aren't always realistic for everything that we're doing. So there's lots of kind of angles that we can use for this.
I appreciate that it checks multiple boxes and gives you return on investment in different ways.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, moving into, there's nothing new on the hydroelectric stuff. Moving into the ALT, was there any updates to 61?
No.
The biggest updates are gonna be in CIP after this. Now, I'm really sad that he's not here, but Director Stovall at the last meeting, or Liaison Stovall, asked for a consolidated expenses by department. And so we actually added that in on page 26 of the presentation. So you can kind of see which department is spending for all the different accounts. So kind of just a different way to look at things. You can see kind of where the different departments kind of spend on different tasks. So I'll stop there for a moment. I know we did present this, I think, at the last board meeting, but I don't think it made it to the last finance committee meeting because it was suggested at the finance committee meeting.
And I appreciated that because I asked for a variant of it, and I think Bob was able to articulate a little simpler version of what I was asking for, so I appreciate that.
Well, let me know if this meets your goals so that we can make sure that we're doing what it is that you're hoping for and kind of answering those questions.
Director Saunders.
Back on the other one, if you wanted the RWA membership number.
Oh, we'll give it to Jessica after and we'll get it incorporated. It's a little bit more than I think we had budgeted for, like
8126.
Bree, I see your hand. Go ahead.
I just a comment to Jessica, they all match now, the numbers.
You're welcome.
You must have got all the formulas done.
Thank you for noticing.
All right, appreciate that. Progress.
Well,
Always progress.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm very appreciative of you because you definitely have an eye for the detail and it's worth it. So it was not facetious at all. That was an actual thank you.
no, I know. And it's like I can see something like it's a sore thumb. I can't maybe down into the details, but anomalies just stick out right in my head. I don't know why.
But we like keeping you around. All right, if we move into capital improvement plan, we can talk quickly about the revenues again.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the revenues. I didn't mean to skip over that. We are still trying to dial in on the water sales revenue. So I think we're getting closer to where we're gonna be. This will probably be adjusted midstream in January when we do our kind of mid-year budget review. And then we do a budget amendment. So by that period, we'll absolutely know what the budget's gonna be for the rest of the year. But just with having the rate increase and the rate change, it's hard to kind of dial those numbers in tight.
Yes, questions I have, and the bottom line looks to me like you've got enough revenue to cover your expenses. That's a good thing. But are we getting declining in residential sales over the years?
No, so what we did is, it's kind of hard to see it, but we broke out residential sales from all the rest of them. And so we have residential sales, we have commercial sales, landscape, those are all treated water. Everything except for the raw water you see is all treated water.
So the reason these are gray is because we didn't break them out. We had to report them to the state, so I have the numbers. But we only had residential and commercial, or residential and irrigation. So starting this year, we actually we have accounts now that the sales automatically flow to. So they break them out in the budget to actuals. Before, we'd have to go through the actual billing cycle register and break them out and then report them to the state. But now we can just go through the monthlies and say, here you go.
Okay. Got it.
So pretty much everything that's grayed out was not information that was collected and distributed to the
Well,
board.
I was looking at the totals and I was looking at the totals up above and it just looked to me like we're getting a decline in residential sales.
So
I
all of
just
these
wonder-
gray ones are from residential
Got it.
sales.
So they're not added in.
They're not added
Yeah,
They're
together.
not added, okay.
Looking at the line item for penalties, and I can see the history. So pre-COVID, you've got 30,830 a year. You've got COVID, which the COVID years threw everything off. Now we're back out of COVID, so, but I'm seeing this pretty dramatic increase, 63,076. Now your adopted budget of 80, next year's proposal 88. What's driving the increase in penalties?
Well, the two big years that came out of COVID were the COVID.
Right, the catch up. But now I'm seeing it still going up. What's
So
driving it today?
Great.
there's new laws that went into place that actually put new water theft laws in new amounts. So when people steal water, it's $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 for each offense. And so those
Okay.
are all, we'd adopted a new rate, was it 23 or 24?
It went from $12 penalty to 10%.
But also for the theft stuff, it went up and then it's going up again.
So this is not necessarily driven by the ratepayer, and I would know nothing about this, but who missed a payment by 3 or 4 days or something like that. This is driven by
I think
actual
like 85%.
malicious activity kind of thing.
And we went from $12 penalty to 10%. Some bills have a $150 penalty.
And I'll just let everybody know, if you're like that one customer who misses their payment by 3 or 4 days, you call us
Mhm.
and you ask for some grace and we were the first people to give it to you. If you call every month, we're probably less likely to give it to you. But if say Andy went on vacation and he missed his payment by a couple days and he called him and said, hey, I'm so sorry I missed a payment. Can you waive my late? We do that all the time for people.
Mhm.
And then we also have had some issues with the mail, where the post office just. They
Lost a bag of mail.
lost a bag of mail. I mean, like the Pony Express around here sometimes. You know, the mailbag fell off the horse and they had to go back and pick it up. So we give those people grace. So there was a whole incident with the Cool Post Office finding an old mailbox, and then the letters got sent out late. And people started calling us in, and so we made a decision to, hey, we're not gonna charge these people late fees, so we're really generous when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Well, I noticed that when I was looking at the collections though, back on the budget report, we're running behind on collections of the penalties. It's a second page on. And I was wondering what the penalties were. I thought those were penalties.
What page are you?
It's on the first page, second page. Inside penalties, we're running behind. We're at 44%. Should be at 25 or so. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what they were. Yeah.
If they don't pay, then we'll go to.
So
counseling.
that's what you have to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every August, we had to send them, so whatever is an outstanding balance on June 30th, we gather. Then we have to publish the names. They have basically 2 months, July, and then the first part of August to pay their bill off, or it goes to tax lien and it's attached to the house. Okay, and moving into the capital improvement plan. We added a couple things in, and you'll notice that we cleaned this up. We removed all the previous years of projects. So this is just the projects we're proposing moving forward. The Ford siphon rehabilitation, we did submit that for an appropriation to both senators and our congressperson as part of a package of water infrastructure projects. So hopefully that gets to move down into the grant funded area. What this actually is if you all recall in December, the big the big pipe that broke, that is the Ford siphon. And so what we're proposing is to put a liner inside that pipe so we don't have that happen again. We don't want to have it break next time under the road because that's a multi-million-dollar repair. We want to fix it. We want to be proactive instead of reactive and fix this and kind of put it behind us.
So is the 430 request for next year's budget contingent on the receipt of?
It is not, but we are holding off and waiting to hear if we do get that appropriation money. So we're not rushing out to do this project, but we are going to try to get it done next year.
Okay, makes sense.
So this isn't part of a grant already received where we have to itemize the item, okay, this is something totally.
Yeah, so this is the way we do the capital improvement plan is we have this first page, which is like ratepayer funded. And then we have when we have grant money, we are looking for these projects. So this is we really need to do this because of where it's located and how important it is to the system. But we've also submitted it for a grant, hoping we get the grant.
Okay.
Chair Fisher.
Yes, Director.
So I had a question on, this was how do we kind of get what we put in our Prop 218 with a line item, or kind of build it into our CIP budgeting process. And I know we built in for 800,000 and we're up to 1.7, so.
Yeah, so if you'll notice, not everything is going to get done. We have priorities, and those are, when we did this last year, we have a description of why they're priorities.
We'll have to figure out what we can do and what we have left over.
Yeah, then so that's how these projects all come back to the board if they're over $25,000. So the only ones that will not come back are the ones in green. Those are contracted amounts, so that's why those are in green. They support the CIP, but they're consultant work for third parties that we deal with. Perfect. The other thing we're looking at doing, and this has been kind of another board request, is the Tyler system is good for what it's good for, but it can be clunky at times. And we've had some issues with, kind of how things are laid out inside of there. So with the Cartograph program that we've started a few years ago, it's owned by a company called OpenGov. And so we are proposing that we switch over to their budgeting software because they talk really well with each other. And developing budgets moving forward would be a lot easier. So basically it takes all of the material costs and lists out of the Cartograph. So when one of our employees goes to do a job and he's saying he's changing a meter or he's fixing a meter, it will put every piece of him into that computer. So his time, the pieces that he uses, the tools that he uses, his truck, the fuel, everything, the mileage. It has a whole list of everything that it costs to do that one service. And then we can actually take that and break it into this budgeting software. It's a new accounting software, and it will help spit out how much it actually costs to run the district. As opposed to us taking a guess, we'll be more precise in what we're actually doing for materials and supplies. So this is this OpenGov system, and I just received a notice from Jessica that it's not gonna be 150, it's probably more like 130. And I'll be having a meeting with them next month, and I'm gonna try to work on getting that even lower. So hopefully we can have a better system that talks better to each other. And then on top of that, they have a payroll system that talks to it. They have
Asset management.
what's the other credit card systems that all talk together. So all the fees can go down that we pay now.
For the customers too.
What will happen to Tyler?
Bye-bye.
So that's my
So-
question. So how long is
We will not have to keep it like we did the last time. As far as I understand, the integration will be, they can go back in integration. That's what you're paying for.
And they can actually absorb the information out of mom so that we don't have to continue to pay
then
for
we
that
get rid of
too.
mom too, actually?
Mhm.
So basically what it does, the integration costs, it's still the same price for the software. It's still about $25,000 to $30,000 per year. But what you're seeing here, this cost is called integration. And it's basically, they take and do this and they bring it all in and they put it all into the system for you.
Okay, so how much you paying for Tyler, how much you paying for Mon, all those things, or is it gonna be cost effective in the long run to do this?
Mom is $610 a month.
So it's $7,500 a year.
And then Tyler's we pay 26 for the software maintenance and then another 8 or 9 for the professional services.
Okay, and then you have payroll.
That's through ADP.
But we can incorporate
But
this.
their
in.
time cards, it has the capability of doing all that. I don't know if we'll transition to that portion. But right now, when we have to put a service order in the Tyler system, that is gonna incur a cost to the customer. So say they want their meter, they ask to have their meter pulled. We don't charge for that. But when they wanna put it back in, we do charge for that. So in Tyler, we have to put the entire service order in, everything, and put the billing, so it pushes that cost to the customer. And then go in the Cartograph and do the exact same thing, so the guys know what's going on and what to do.
So these are.
We have to do it twice.
You'd integrate
They don't
those.
talk to each other. Yeah.
I see.
But there is a payroll system that does integrate
Because,
with it, so.
well, the only thing I was gonna say about that is usually when you buy that basic software, then those are add-on costs. I mean, they charge you for those additional costs each time you put another platform. in.
Same with Tyler.
Yeah.
Tyler has all
Yeah, we
the-
don't have the payroll system. Tyler does pay time and attendance. We didn't purchase that portion. That would be an additional cost.
So is this a-
Tyler way before Cartograph.
So you have their team doing all the integration for you? So,
I'm sure I'd be helping a lot.
yeah, that's what I was wondering, what kind of impacts are we talking about? Cause you're taking on. I mean, I'm just sitting here listening to you, taking this on, taking on that.
We're doing double the work right now
Yeah,
with the new Cartograph system and the
Mhm.
Cartograph. I would say that I'm still stuck in Tyler because that's where all of our budgeting software is and all of our billing information. The admin staff work probably 75 to 80% in the Cartograph system because they are monitoring which requests are being fulfilled, what jobs are still open, customers are wondering why haven't they shown up, and it'll tell you where they are and how far away they are, because they use tablets to communicate with Cartograph. So we can literally see real time, like, oh, you're next on the list, or when people pay, they have their water shut back or turn back on. We can say, oh, it looks like it's gonna be another 20 minutes, or he's
Okay.
almost there. With Tyler, it doesn't.
so ultimately,
none of
it's
that.
going to be very efficient.
Yeah,
much more
it'll be
efficient.
so much more
And
efficient.
they have, like you said, they have all these modules that we can incorporate as well, so.
Everything. I was like, we don't need that, we don't need this,
Okay.
but it's really nice.
So that was gonna be my question, is how much vetting you've done, because every software system has salespeople that make it sound like the greatest thing that's ever been invented, but it sounds like you're already invested in it.
We've been vetting this for almost 2 years.
Yeah, and I have a meeting with another, she's the general manager of the San Bernardino CSD. I don't know if there's like a town or a city attached to that. Can't be the whole county.
Well,
It's gotta be-
The district within the county.
Maybe the municipal water district.
It's, yeah, so it just said San Bernardino CSD. So I'm meeting with her, the general manager, to talk about how she's dealing with OpenGov's budgeting software and billing software, utility billing.
So yeah, we've been doing our due diligence.
Yeah, with,
Trying
That's
to.
good.
some of the recommendations that we did with Tyler when we were looking through the software is have them come in, do a sample running of what it looks like in our system, because when we had some software companies come and say, oh, this is simple, it's like Windows, and it's like, gee, that's not gonna work at all. So like, there was a bunch that we were able to, throw out once they gave us a demo, so.
Well, and if you want, I do have the test software, so you can go in, you can't hurt anything, because it's just a test module. We've been doing this for 18 months, going in and looking at it and playing with the numbers and seeing how easy it is to start an account, to bill people, run a billing process. Right now, with all the different so all the Neptune software that takes the meter reads through the AMI and the AMRs, that goes into the Neptune software. Then you have to export that into a file that Tyler can recognize, and then import that into Tyler, and then it's still wrong. And you have to go through every single read and make sure that it looks like it's normal. So we'll have a read, sometimes they go back to 0 and you've used 1 million gallons of water and your bill's $25,000. Sends up a little red flag, but it's not perfect, but it just is very time consuming.
Yeah.
And the OpenGov software would be able to speak to Neptune. So we wouldn't have to export and import. It leaves a lot of room for human error,
Okay.
and we can
for,
eliminate that.
Training, how many people are we gonna train
Train on what?
on OpenGov when it comes in? Are we
Everyone
gonna
that
have-
works here.
All right.
Is this a pay as you go, or is there a commitment up front where you are committed for 5 years or?
We haven't gotten there yet because I haven't agreed to anything.
Okay.
But there's probably a commitment.
Okay.
It's gonna take 18 months to transition, they said. If we want the full 7 years.
Cloud-based or server?
I'm pushing for cloud-based.
Yeah, there's both options.
Server is what we have now. And it's really hard for the accountants because everything's here. And so now we have,
And now we have internet, so I guess cloud-based will work.
yeah,
Yeah.
before we didn't have.
Before we didn't
Really
have
coming into
internet.
the century.
Yeah. When we were doing Tyler, we didn't have.
We went from
internet,
dial-up
so-
to-
Wow.
And would it be easier for the managers to manipulate the system if they're not at the office? So
Right,
Adam does a lot from his house already, and he could do a lot more. I do a lot when I'm on the road, and I could do a lot more. And Jessica also does a lot when she's,
I had to
On
pull
the
over
road.
on the freeway on I-5 and
yeah.
approve some checks so they didn't bounce.
So it's. It's a cost, yes, but it's an efficiency issue as well, and so. Will you see a tangible, like change? Maybe not like fiscally, but you'll see a tangible change in the efficiency of how we run things here.
Would that give us any opportunity, say, for next year's budget to see kind of different formats, maybe
Yes.
be involved in the look and the format as you're creating it? If we're starting fresh and new?
If you give me a list of questions, I will get them answered for you.
Okay,
Good.
All right. sure, you go ahead. Okay, on the fiscal year 25-26, that's the approved CIP, all those numbers?
No, this is all proposed.
No,
So where do-
20, oh, okay, so where's the current year? It's not on here.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying at the beginning. We cleaned that up and we pulled those off.
Okay, all right, well, so you might want to go in and actually put some formulas
in here because like infrastructure replacement, I know you removed that, but it's still over to the right. Paving doesn't add up. Pump station retrofit doesn't look like there's actual formulas put in this chart.
Okay, we'll take a look at that. Thank you for that catch.
Those are
Okay,
just-
so where do you find what you've spent on CIP this year? Is there anything that you're showing
Is that in our
so you know what's been
BDA?
spent on the current years?
So we have a reconciliation of all the accounts and all the stuff we spent. It's in the budget report, right? It's in these reports. Yeah.
Not each project.
Not each project.
Is there-
The columns are just hidden, they're
Yeah,
still
I'm
there.
talking about each project.
It's not showing it.
Yeah, we can, if you have a specific project in mind, we can let you know, or you can reach out to us and we can tell you what we spent on all the projects.
Okay, because like what you do with the budget, you show one or couple years of the previous budget. I think you probably should show the current CIP and what's spent in it. Have you spent all the money in the CIP? I mean, that would be helpful.
No, we did not spend all the money in the CIP. We did not do all the projects.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So there's nothing that shows where you're at on that, but you show on the budget, but not the CIP.
We can figure out, it's really clunky looking. We can try to figure out a way to make it cleaner looking and see what we can do.
Maybe have just one page
Okay.
with the current CIP and then keep everything else as is.
Yeah, we can do something like that.
Sheree took us back to where I was going to. So I think I heard Director Saunders say that we expect to have about 800,000 in revenue for CIP next year. Did I hear that?
That
right?
was what the COSA asked for. Now, we did not approve the same amount that the COSA asked for to be put in. So it probably will not be the full 800,000. However, we do have other monies that will go in there. So the investment account money, when that was all developed, that was earmarked for CIP. And then we have other revenue sources that as they come in could be earmarked for CIP.
So my question is, is this truly a budget? Meaning, do you actually anticipate 1.738 in revenue to match this expenditure? Or is this more of a spending plan?
This is more of a spending plan. I do not
Should it be
anticipate.
titled that? It's because the budget to me implies you've got $1 coming into $1 going out.
So the reason we do it this way is because we don't have, we have a lot of work that needs to be done.
Sure.
We don't always have a lot of time to do everything. So we tried to prioritize these projects into the priority 1, 2, 3. And then, so basically everything in priority 1 is likely to get done. Everything, if we have work that gets done in the grant funded area that takes away from doing any of these priorities, that's where we don't want to remove. I don't want to say this. We want to make sure that we have everything that we could potentially want to do in here,
Yeah.
but we also realize that it's maybe not realistic.
And I get what you're trying to do. You want to be you want to be able to move when opportunity knocks, and you don't want to have to do a budget amendment and things like that. So you're trying to capture the opportunity, but you also know that this is not truly a budget, that somebody, new project manager, say, comes in tomorrow and says, oh, look, I've got 1.7 million, let's go to work. In that sense, it's not quite a true budget. It's a spending plan, and it's a contingent spending authority, right?
Well, so it's still
It needs to be understood that way.
I think that's why it's a capital improvement plan.
Right.
It's what we would like to do if the money was there and we could, because we don't know what happens tomorrow. We could have another mosquito fire tomorrow, or we could have an earthquake tomorrow, where this whole plan is out the window and we have other priorities that we have to foresee and spend money on.
And that was kind of my point, was it is a capital improvement plan, but that word budget right there
Oh, we can remove that.
just seems like it would be clearer that way,
I
because it's a projection. And
It is it's
and a buy-in of the board's direction for where they want you to go priority wise, but it's not truly a budget. So,
I would say 90% of the work that is on here comes back to the board.
Yeah.
And we have to still justify where the money is coming from and making sure that there's enough money in that account. So we can't just spend this money
Right.
on a whim. So we can absolutely remove that word and make it more clear.
Okay.
Moving into 6,100. Nothing really changes here. These all projects were, we didn't spend any money on CIP in 6,100, so if there's a question that comes up about that, we didn't do any projects last year. Because of where we were budget wise, we had a little bit of money in the CIP, but we did not have enough to justify doing a project. So what we did was pushed everything from last year into this year. And we actually we'll remove the water trailer, so that's not something we might leave it on there just to keep it as a marker. But we have a water line that we're gonna put in, so we may not need that water trailer. And then everything else is just kind of catching up to where we were last year. So now that we have a different rate coming in, we'll have a little bit more reserve fund, and we can actually do some of the work that we had planned to do. The big project that we have here is the lift station that needs to be upgraded, and we will not do that unless we receive a grant. I actually just had my staff register for a funding fair so that they can kind of learn about all the different funding groups and granting agencies, where the best place to find about this $1 million would be.
So these are like priority one, all of these,
Everything in we don't have priorities in this
but
section.
essentially it is.
Essentially it is, except for the grant funded one, which is we're gonna wait until we get a grant. We have a plan. If you'll notice in the top, about $30,000, we can give us a bunch of extra days if we have an issue, but ultimately we would still like to do the upgrade because then it's set and forget it type of thing. And then moving forward into the grant funded, a lot of stuff that got removed here was from the CAL FIRE grant. There was all the different equipment that we purchased. We're gonna be pulling those off. We're gonna be pulling off the generators and the infrastructure work that we did there. The AMI meters we just purchased, or actually those will be on the next board meeting to purchase. The extra AMI radios and all that stuff. So basically what you see here, this is definitely a plan. This is kind of here's the grants that we've applied for, and here's the projects that we need to do that are associated with them.
Okay.
There is one, and I apologize to jump back into the first budget. The line item that says welding exhaust flume extractor for $6,000.
Mhm.
We are applying for a risk management grant through Aqua JPIA. Because what this is basically when the guys are out in the garage welding, it's a big exhaust fan that sucks all the fumes out when they're welding on something. And so this is, JPIA loves those kind of projects to be able to fund those because it helps keep people safe. And so we should be able to get the $6,000 for that project.
Mm.
Okay. And then, the last page is just future capital improvement plan projects, but far out in the future.
Yeah.
Any other comments from in the room? Any comments or questions for outside the room? There's Sheree. Go ahead, Sheree.
These numbers don't add up here either, the subtotals and the grand total. CDS carports 13,000.
This gets manipulated on an hourly basis by both me and the staff, so I'm sure that I've mucked up the formulas and I'll.
Fiscal year 24-25 is in there, it's just hidden, so it's adding all of that together also.
Mm,
They're not deleted.
Oh, that's not good.
hidden, for to fit on the slides.
I see what you're saying.
So we can add it back, but it is including all of those fiscal year 24-25 projects in the totals.
Well, if you add 128,000, 50,000, that's 168,000, and it says 167,000. So
No, I see what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
yeah, and then and then
Go ahead.
like the carport's 13,000, but the total's 26,000. So was there 13,000 in
Yes.
another?
From last fiscal year.
Yeah.
From current
So
fiscal year, right?
In the current
Okay.
fiscal year.
You didn't put the column in. We should-
So it's just missing the current fiscal year columns. You're seeing,
We'll add a
Missing.
slide that says what the
Yeah.
current CIP is and we'll clean these formulas up.
Okay.
thanks, Tree. Good catch. All right. Anything else on budget? Do we want to make a recommendation to the board? Review the proposed 25-26 operating budget, CIP, and provide recommendations to staff for implementation.
I think we've talked about it. We can incorporate all the comments and all the inputs. If there's anything else you want to add, we can absolutely add those, but I appreciate the input not only from you, but also from the public, so we'd be happy to put all that together. And I think the next meeting is a real big important one. We have the joint budget meeting where it's actually gonna be the 4 of you and the 5 board members. So you'll be able to kind of sit across the table from each other and give input. Hear what you've heard, hear what you think as a constituent, but also as a committee member, what you think is most valuable to the district.
Very good.
And that's our final meeting before we finalize the budget, yes?
Yeah, so the budget will be
Yeah,
finalized
that
in the June board meeting.
Okay,
Last time we said that we were happy with the direction going forward with those few changes. I'm not sure. I'm happy to entertain a motion. I'm not sure we need to make another formal motion. You heard our comments. I'd like to see the capital improvement plan be framed as a plan rather than a hard and fast budget. But I think, I don't know that we need to frame that up in a motion unless somebody wants to. What do you think? Was our last motion still good? Move forward with comments? Or do we want to remake it?
Let's just remake it.
Okay.
Move to advance the budget consistent with comments from today, including capital improvement for not a plan, not a budget, but a plan, as well as adding in last year. And can't remember.
Cleaning up the formulas so
Just
that
cleaning up
the-
the formula.
yeah.
I make that motion.
There's a motion,
I second it.
motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have motioned and moved and the motion passes. Which brings us to item number 7, Finance Committee member comments and reports. Anything from the committee?
Can I just add one thing in before you do that? And I just want to confirm what my original suspicion was. So for you, Cherie, the credit card charge that you were requesting more information on, it was a winch for the F-150 that goes up country. So we had a winch go out and we had to replace it. And so that was that charge was for.
Is it actually from the UK or is it UK just part of the name of the company?
I'm not sure. I'm sure it could be.
Okay,
It's the one from Harbor Freight. We usually buy the Badlands ones, so.
okay. All right. Any comments from committee members?
Not for me.
Liaison members?
After all the budget stuff is done, the one thing, if the finance committee wants to entertain, I could have a GM from one of the southern areas who has a unique billing. They removed all of the fixed rates to property tax, and the actual water bill is just water. So the district still gets paid the fixed rates, but it doesn't show up on people's bills. They pay it automatically, so that's one thing if you want to look at exploring that idea on how they did that.
That sounds interesting. Is there a advantage other than perception advantage?
You don't have to, I mean, you don't have to pay that, so your bill will go down from like the 120, if you pay 120, and would you just have the $20 portion instead of the fix, so.
It'd be interesting to see how it was received in the. Yeah. Very good.
So it'd be like a tax lien situation?
It's put on like an assessment,
Oh, okay.
so it's automatically paid, so we get it.
Paid out of your-
And I guess one advantage is the assessor's office pursues defaults for you. Anything that goes on the property tax bill, that's an
Right.
advantage.
Right.
Okay.
And in most cases, it comes directly out of, you know. Pay mortgage, if you want your house, you gotta pay your water bill.
I would say as someone who reviews the budget daily and weekly, that might be a strain for us because we rely on that big billing cycle to come through to pay
And
operating
that's
costs.
why I would have that GM come to say, how do they get their money? Do they get it all at once at the beginning? And if not, then
It'd be interesting to hear what they
that's a
say.
big thing we have to worry about is the revolving fund issue.
Okay,
Pre-funded.
any other comments? After the fiscal year and you have the new positions dialed in, would you be willing to include an org chart in one of our packets for us to refer to?
The org chart is a part of the budget.
Okay.
So yeah, you'll have it.
And it's gonna be in the next board packet.
Thank you. Agenda items for the next finance committee meeting. I think that one's gonna be pretty well dedicated to the joint meeting for the budget, so I think that one's pretty wrapped up.
But if there's something for after that, we can always include it in the next meetings after that. If there's something that's on your mind.
I'd be happy to hear what the GM has to say about the advantages that they're going with. Okay. Next meeting, is that correct? That's our joint meeting, May 22nd at 2:00. And is that here? Are we having, I know sometimes we've done it elsewhere, that will be here.
Do it here.
Okay, so
May 22nd.
I better check. I think I'm good. I think I can.
Good too. Yep.
Yep. Yeah.
Already have it on there. Okay. So just one more time for the record, 2:00, May 22nd, right here in this room. Joint budget meeting. So that concludes item number 9. That's the end of our agenda for today. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
I saw motion.
All right. That's good. So we don't need to stay here all night. Looking good, looking good. I get a second. All in favor?
I.
Aye, we are adjourned.